Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast and Twitch.tv/Rogue Wave Podcast. Find our podcast on all major apps, including Apple, Spreaker, Spotify, Google, Anchor, you name it. We're on it. Go to roguewavepodcast.com to subscribe. Hit the little subscribe button. Follow us on Spotify, wherever you can. Helps us out tremendously. Tonight on the Rogue Wave podcast, ComicCon no more, Batman on the move, Daredevil going home, and the best binge-worthy franchises while under quarantine. I am your host, Michael Dolce, joined as always by my cohort in crime, the Lord of the live stream himself, Mr. Hassan Godwin. How are you doing today, sir?
It's another Wednesday. It's another
Is
beautiful
it Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Quite frankly, it's Groundhog's Day.
Yeah, it's another beautiful day in my living room.
Yeah, it is. It is just another. Every day is exactly the same, with the exception of Wednesdays now, I guess, where we get to do this, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah, this is a highlight. It's a highlight of the whole week.
So
like, I get to talk to somebody.
What's not a highlight for me is watching Westworld.
No.
I got, I get these notifications and newsletters and stuff, and it's like the big Westworld twist. Spoiler if you haven't seen Sunday's episode. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm behind because it's been awful. So I just haven't been as motivated to watch it. And they say at some, but I'm like, oh, there's a twist. Oh, maybe the twist is there is something good going on, and I should catch up. And so I raced to finish like 2.5 episodes, so I could, be up to date on everything. And no spoilers, so I'm not gonna tell you what the twist was, but it was the twist was not that the show is doing is good. It's still pretty.
That's
awful.
not the twist.
No.
Twist is not that the show is enjoyable.
Yeah, no, it's still pretty awful, and it's funny too because I then I was like curious. I'm like, maybe it's just me. I know you and I have had our conversations about how it's awful, but you think everything's awful, so I'm kind of like. Sometimes I have to gauge what you say.
No, obviously not. if you go by our prequel discussions,
this is even more of a reason that I need outside influences. So I started looking up the Rotten Tomatoes, and some critics are like, "This is really firing on all cylinders. This is the best." But then you go to like the user comments, and they're like, "I have no idea what's going on." One guy's like, "So we're supposed to root for the robots now?" Question mark? Like
it's this insidious kind of storytelling that we have now, where it just keeps throwing twist after twist after twist and intricacy at you, while making the substantial mistake of not really developing the characters that are taking us from twist to twist to twist.
Yeah.
So you have, you get kind of characters like Maeve or whatever who get cool moments, and we know Maeve maybe more than any of the other characters, including
she's like Neo from the Matrix.
Maeve, yeah.
That's what I
what's
like.
His name? What is Jeffrey Wright's name? Darn it.
Oh, on the show you're talking about.
Yeah, what's his character? Yeah, whatever his character's name is. None of these characters. Excuse me for not being studied up on it. None of these characters are very compelling. The circumstances are very compelling.
In season one.
In season one, before it all became now, as soon as they revealed that all these people who are the players and what the situation is, it became in season 2 a linear game where it's like, how non-linear can we be? How non-directly can we explain the very rudimentary, very simple science fiction tropes that we're enacting for this story? And now in season 3, now you don't even have that cover anymore. So now the actual story in and of itself is laid bare. And you realize, okay, it's just a conspiracy of one artificially intelligent robot who has a substantial beef. Like her cause is understandable, and she's going to do something to humanity.
It also
for some reason, and then
there is an element to it with the new villain Sirach that they introduced.
Mm-hmm.
To where there is like a really cool story there. There is like, okay, so he built this, but how we got to this quote unquote revelation, I'm like, where the F are we? Like, I don't even know how we ended up getting to where we're getting. But either way, what upset me,
it
just upset me, but it also got me thinking, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about next segment too.
Thinking can be dangerous. Let's
what
see what happens.
Franchises are worth binging right now when we're under quarantine. So next segment we'll dive deeper in. You're going to pick one of each, comics, movies, and TV. I'll pick one of each, and we'll throw it out there for the audience as well too. But if you pick Westworld, if someone picks Westworld, then I got nothing for you. I got nothing
Please
for you.
Stop following.
I am going to hate watch it all the way through though, and we will do something on the finale. Maybe. But it looks like the rest of us are not watching it either. So, all right, shifting to this, we call this segment Rogue Rage. It's all the rage in the pop culture world, news, notes, and more. ComicCon, no more. This actually broke, I think, right the day after our show last week. San Diego Comic-Con officially calling it quits for the year. First time in its 50-year history that they had to close up shop. There will be no San Diego. I am especially upset because that is the one show that I go to every year where I actually don't have a table or a booth, and I'm not trying to hawk my wares. I'm literally just out there to network with as many people and enjoy the experience of being out in the beautiful San Diego weather with a lot of friends I don't get to see, a lot of industry folks I don't get to see very often. So, yes, personally very upset. Kind of knew this was going to happen, though, because as we were hearing, a lot of vendors were pulling out. So Comic-Con had waited, I think, as long as they could, and then they kind of realized, well, we're not going to have much of a show because there's not going to be anybody there, let alone, what the state of the virus is going to be. When's the last time you were at San Diego?
I was never at San Diego.
You've never been?
No.
Oh, my gosh.
No, sir.
No?
And obviously this year is not
to be fair,
the year that I go.
is not something that you particularly enjoy.
No, I do not like the heat, and it is San Diego. But that wouldn't be, I imagine most of the convention is air conditioned. So that would not be an issue.
Here's the thing about San Diego now. It really is an outdoor convention. Right? It's the whole town. And I was reading articles about how this is going to impact the actual, and I'm making up a number, but a significant percentage. See, I won't even make up a number. I'll cover myself. A significant percentage of the yearly income for San Diego is Comic-Con. Like how much money they actually end up making just from that show. And if you walk around the town, the diner that's closest to the convention becomes like the sci-fi diner. And, they literally, the city leases out areas for huge. It becomes it's like going to an amusement park now. It's like going to Disney World, but for 3-4 days, and you just have attractions that get built up. I remember one year they had the South Park town. They recreated the entire South Park town, so you could literally, and this is outside the convention center. You could literally walk the entire South Park town if you wanted to.
Pretty awesome.
It was, and I think 2 years ago it was the Jack Ryan, Amazon. They had literally just a downed helicopter in the middle of this park. It was pretty awesome.
It's kind of a strange attraction, but
no, it was really cool. It was definitely, and just in general, again, there is just an electricity to the city that.
Well, I believe it's great, but it's just, circumstances, situations, work situations, travel, all that stuff, all those logistics, every year. It's kind of difficult to pull together, I've had a couple of windows open where I would be able to go, but then, certain other things didn't fall into place. So I've
financially also, it's an expensive.
It's an expensive trip.
Unless you want to literally stay, 7 miles away in a hostel, you're forking over major money for really awful conditions. But look, there is something.
I'll go one day, if there is a future, then in the future, all right. Well,
we are positivity here. Look.
I was not negative. I am open to the possibilities of anything.
Well, I guess. What is it? Fight Club on any given time, stretch out a timeline long enough.
Yes. The survival. Yes.
Yeah. On a long enough timeline. That's it. I got to call out Pat Shand here, and I dislike having to do this, but he posted.
All right with me.
When all this first started, that there's going to be no conventions this year. And I kind of sat there, and this was about a month ago or 3 weeks ago, and I go, and someone actually also, I think David Markowski, replied to the post on Facebook, and he said, things are changing day by day. We are not going to know what's going to happen in October. Part of me was sitting there saying, even in July, it's late July, by then, and it still looks to be on track. Theaters will be open and things like this, but it looks like mass gatherings are going to take some time. So now,
even if you do open up, there's going to be a substantial amount of the populace who's not going to want to.
There's that. I mean, I would brave it. I would think that people within our age group are not as concerned as, say, someone in their 60s, 70s, or 80s. But
that's a misconception. There's children who are.
Look, there are children, yes, but the percentage is so low in terms of what those people being affected versus what. Well, look, in terms of these serious cases, these serious cases tend to hit people who are again.
That is inaccurate, but okay,
it's not inaccurate.
It is inaccurate.
It's
from someone in the city. From someone in the city, that's an inaccuracy.
There are a lot of people that do get afflicted who are not in the quote unquote demographic of an older age bracket. Yes, and there are people getting affected who are seemingly healthy as well, but the percentage of cases is still higher. That's just fact. It's higher that it's if you have pre-existing conditions and or are older, you tend to be more susceptible to it. That is it's not 50-50.
Yeah, the thing is, though, you do not know exactly why there are some demographics. So in which case, exalting that some people are just not affected as much as others is kind of a false information glitch, because you don't know is it that this particular demographic is less exposed to it, and with a grander amount of exposure.
Sure.
Is it an equal opportunity virus?
Sure.
Which is why I'm saying that information is inaccurate. Now, if you want to talk about how many have been exposed or have been affected, those are metrics that we can use.
Right.
But if you're talking about who is susceptible and who is not, we cannot know that.
Of course not. They're going to look. They're going. That's part of the whole problem with this pandemic in general. Is that this is something that's totally new and it's contagious.
Yeah, but that was the track you were taking. That was the track your statement was going on, and that's why I'm saying that's inaccurate.
I'm saying that the general feeling, in my opinion, is that people in our age. No, but we're talking about in terms of going to the convention. Remember, this is how it started. Who's going to actually end up going to this convention in October, which is what we're kind of talking about now in New York, as to whether or not it's going to happen or not. And your statement, while 100% accurate, saying we don't know who's going to want to even go because they might be afraid. I would sit there to guess. I would wager to guess by October that if you're not in the quote unquote susceptible bracket, you will be more open to going, especially because you've been quarantined, especially because look, we could have a second wave in September and everything gets thrown completely out of whack.
They're talking about that there's going to be a second wave. That's A. B, if we're speculating about who's going to want to go and who's not going to want to go, it would all depend on how much or what kind of information is out there at the time.
I'm basing it on what we have now, though. We can't postulate on information we don't have yet.
But you're postulating on information we don't have. Like you're saying you're okay.
I'm giving a certain set of circumstances, right? Circumstance A, there's no second wave, or the second wave is not as severe. B, the initial.
But that is information we do not have.
But I'm giving you my circumstances for why I think people would go. Obviously, if the circumstances are not, when we in the business world when we give proposals out to people and there's variables in place, you say, okay, given this criteria, this is how much I can charge for something. Given this criteria, this is how I assume the mindset of someone would be. I agree. I think attendance will be down. I think that if you wanted to go to New York ComicCon and weren't afraid, this is the year to go, because you will be able to actually experience more in a less crowded line. That being said, is it going to be a socially distanced convention, or are we going to be all wearing, ironically, we're all wearing masks anyway when we go to New York Comic Con, so but now everyone will be wearing masks. There's so many things in place to where I would say over under, I don't even think it's 50% that there's a New York Comic Con. I'm like leaning that it's like a 30-70 that we have a New York Comic Con.
Yeah, I honestly don't believe. I would be surprised if there was a New York Comic Con this year. Especially because of New York.
I know. And it's
the
funny,
fact that right now the Javits is a hospital.
I know. You look at that map and it's like, rest of the country, this virus sucks. New York City, Armageddon. It's like, it's tough. It is extremely tough. I wonder if, and I like they couldn't even do this. I wonder if you could temporarily move it to like Jersey or something, like have it in the Meadowlands or something to where it wasn't.
Jersey is not doing well either. The
no, but I mean, again,
area in and of itself is not doing well.
Agreed. I know New York City is in and of itself a hot spot. So it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm like,
who's gonna want to pay tickets? Who's gonna pay money to come across country to come to a viral hot zone?
Well, again, we don't know what it's going to be. Is
what I was saying.
If there's no second wave, the assumption no second wave or lesser second wave, I'd say maybe we have it. But
you contradict yourself, though. You keep contradicting yourself.
I'm not contradicting anything
because of. But okay, my speculation is not many people are going to want to close quarter gather in the middle of New York, where the pandemic is at its highest in the country. And then your reaction to it is, well, we cannot speculate on information we don't have. And then you speculate on information we don't have as to by
giving a criteria of assumptions. I say,
so is mine a criteria of assumptions. Like, that's what I'm saying. What are your
assumptions then?
I assume that it's not going to go away when everybody thinks it's going to go away. I assume it's going to be a messy recovery.
Yeah.
I assume that the stigma of the virus is going to last a hell of a lot longer than the virus in and of itself. And I assume that New York, being pretty much the poster city for Corona, is not going to be a desirable destination for a lot of people who have been relatively untouched and healthy throughout this whole thing. That's my criteria.
What's your percentage? Mine's under 30. I say 30-70.
Under 30. Way under 30. Under 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You give it like a 10% chance?
I would be surprised if it. I mean, San Diego, California has beat their curve.
I know.
Things are getting better in California for the coronavirus, and they canceled San Diego.
Yeah,
which is still months and months away.
That, I guess, that again, I think has more to do with the fact of all the cancellations for the studios and the vendors themselves, though.
Well, what do you think the factors are going to be for New York? What do you think? The same parameters
the timing of San Diego, though. The timing of San Diego, though, if you look at the phase openings, doesn't jive with. Large gatherings can't gather by July anyway. I think in terms of the phases. So if California is going to open up May 15th, as that is the new date for them. In a phase 1 environment, there is no way you can get to phase 3 by the time San Diego comes around. Now, New York also has the May 15th timeline, which could change. Originally it was May 1st, now it's May 15th. We are, supposedly plateaued. We are, nearing the other end of the curve, which is great. Those are actual, facts. October, you might get to phase 3, but I agree with you. The stigma will still be there by the time that happens. Be interesting to see.
Whatever fits your narrative, then you go for it.
I like that. Speaking of more Corona cancellations, The Batman moves back amid Warner Brothers' date shuffle. The film starring Robert Pattinson as the Caped Crusader had been set to hit the big screen June 25th, 2021. It will now ride into theaters October 1st, 2021. So we'll get an October Batman, which I kind of like a little bit more. They're also pushing the Sopranos prequel back, and King Richard, which I have no idea what that is. They were both supposed to come out in 2020. They will be reshuffled as well. The thing that I guess people realize, but something that didn't dawn on me for a while, I mean, Walking Dead, for example, their season finale is now next season. They are literally moving their season finale because all the productions have stopped. So it's interesting because we live in this binge TV world where you kind of just assume everything's already been filmed. But no, I mean, there's a lot of TV shows now that didn't get in before, March, and everything's changing. So, the Batman, they had people on set that had it. So, I mean, it's an interesting pause, I think, on everything that's kind of happening. All I know is 2021.
It's all hype, man. It's all hype. It's not a big deal at all.
Don't spread that. Don't spread that.
Oh no, I am responding. I am responding to a previous acquaintance of mine who had that attitude previously.
I said, "Do you feel this is?"
No, you said you felt it is hype.
I felt that the media.
It was hype.
I felt that the media was contributing to it. And then I said,
no, I don't think it's hype.
I think the media.
You said I think it's hype.
I still think the media is contributing to it. I mean, you still look at.
You said it was hype. We can go back. We have archives.
Yes, I know.
You believe it was
I did not say it was hype. I said I felt like it was a little bit. I felt like the media was contributing to it. You can have opinions, that say, I think this is a little bit, and I think this is sort of, and I think that this is contributing. Not a definitive yes, it is or not. I said the media was contributing to the panic. And that was actually the true thing, which I still think
I do not believe you are remembering it correctly, but okay.
You never remember things correctly.
Me? No, I didn't. I don't. That's why I went back and listened to it before we started doing this. That's why I remember it vividly right now.
Yes. No, I listened to it as well, and I did not.
Mm-hmm.
I did not say it.
Okay.
I did not.
Yes, all right.
Daredevil's reportedly returning home as rights revert early. This is from WeGotThisCovered.com. Ever since Daredevil was canceled by Netflix, see some positive news here. It was canceled by Netflix in late 2018. Fans have been praying that Marvel would bring back Charlie Cox as the Man Without Fear elsewhere in the MCU. The hitch was, though, Netflix retained the rights to the show's characters for a full 2 years after its end. So Marvel couldn't do anything with Matt Murdock until late 2020. At least that's what we thought. It seems the ban might have actually been lifted a few months early. MCU Cosmics' Jeremy Conrad posted an exciting tweet when this story came out, sounding like someone had an earlier homecoming than expected, followed by a gif of Matt and Foggy celebrating the offices of Nelson and Murdoch. Conrad appears to be saying then that Marvel has come to a deal with Netflix to let them use the hero ASAP, and the rights have reverted early, which is funny considering that just the other week they claimed Daredevil would not be returning home until November. With the pandemic, productions have now been delayed. There's rumors we're going to get a Daredevil in Spider-Man 3. What do you think of that idea?
I think yay. I don't know what it's probably going to just be Matt Murdock, and he's just going to be a cameo. I don't think he's going to be a key player in the story.
I don't think so. See, I think there's two characters that have been absent from the Spider-Man universe due to legal reasons of being at different studios, which is Daredevil is one and Human Torch. Both will now be under the Marvel banner, and they won't bring Human Torch in. In the comics, Human Torch and Spider-Man are like, really good friends, and they pal around and tease each other, and it's a great dynamic. Unless they somehow can slip a Fantastic Four movie, in, we're not going to get that. Daredevil, though, having been previously established in the Netflix universe, and if it's Charlie Cox, I could see that happening. I could see him playing a more major role, especially with no Robert Downey Jr. They seem to tend to group together the Spider-Man films now with supporting characters from other Marvel films as a way to maybe differentiate it from the previous iterations of Spider-Man. I don't know. But this wouldn't be any different now, right?
Well, okay. How did they do that for the second one?
You had the shadow of Tony Stark. You had Jon Favreau, as Happy, play a substantial role in it.
I guess. Okay. That's not really, but I mean, that's not anything more than they've been doing throughout the MCU, right? We're having cameos or having people walk through.
I would call Jon Favreau's role more than a
But
cameo.
Jon Favreau isn't like, he's not an Avenger, Happy is not an Avenger. He's not a key player in the events of
Homecoming. Homecoming. Tony Stark was. It might as well have been an Iron Man movie.
Yeah, that is a lot more substantial. But all right, okay, I guess.
Your thought would be it would be like one of those.
I don't think it would be that substantial. I think it would be a great thing. I think it would be fantastic for, and it's good. It's good news for Daredevil, for Netflix's Daredevil, which is now MCU's Daredevil. If that entire cast and that entire production team crosses over, that was pretty much the best of the television.
Yeah. What an opportunity also if they did put him and gave him a good role in Spider-Man to then launch on Disney Plus and or Hulu, because they own Hulu too. Disney owns everything except Netflix. To as a jumping off point for the new Daredevil series. Yeah,
which is quite a ways away, but yeah, that would be a nice jump off.
Yeah,
that would be great. They need the biggest problem with Daredevil and all the Netflix Marvel shows is they need to be shorter. Either that, they need to be shorter, or they need to have better stories.
Right,
13 hours worth of content. Because
isn't 8 like the magic number? I feel
it's not. No, if you watch The Defenders, it wasn't. 8 was not the magic number. Stories are the magic number.
Is at 8? Most of these, big budget.
No, I don't necessarily think so. I think you just have to have a good flow through. If you're going to tell an 8-hour movie, right? If you have to think about it as an 8-hour movie with highs and lows or whatever, then you can space it out like that. But if you're going to have a 13-hour episodic season and then run out of content right around 7, 8, and 9, which is pretty much the average of all these. So now you're asking the audience to hang in there for 3 hours of content that are just kind of stretching the plot. Yeah. And then you try to rev it all up with 10, 11, and 12. If that, it's kind of not workable. And then you had diminishing returns each year for those shows.
Yeah, it's tough also because those shows kind of kicked off Netflix binge culture. I guess House of Cards is probably the first series, right? The first straight to stream series that kind of kicked off the binge phenomenon.
Yes.
But you still had showrunners who were just used to doing 24 hours of shows, right? And I think that people are now, and I'll use Westworld even though it's not a good show, or even like Watchmen. I'll use Watchmen as an example. Now you have showrunners are coming in being like, oh, I don't have to fill slots to, I don't need to have Kim chasing a tiger, which is or tiger chasing Kim. So maybe,
but this
give it the benefit of the doubt that maybe they'll.
This is the problem, though. This is the problem. Why with Westworld did we have to wait for 2 years for this?
Oh yeah,
this is the problem. This is what's going to happen: is people are going to take advantage of the format, and they're going to keep giving us less.
Yeah.
And making us wait longer for less.
Yeah, it's
funny. Ridiculous.
It's counterintuitive, right? It's counterintuitive. You would think that more time off means they're spending more time figuring out all this, and it's going to be so much better because they're not being rushed.
They're not taking the time that they're being given to improve the production format of content production. They're using it as extra vacation time and extra hype time.
Yeah.
And Westworld is gorgeous. One of the most, one of the most beautiful shows that you've ever seen on television. But it doesn't really matter. That's not really saving it.
Right.
In our opinion. All right. Look, if they end the season and it's a ratings overload, then sure. Then we're, our misgivings are insubstantial. Right.
Yeah.
But bottom line, right now, it's not really grabbing anybody. Right?
Yeah.
It's not grabbing the people that we know. It's not grabbing people in our circles. Obviously, you need more than that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you need to take the opportunity that you're being given and the substantial amount of time that you're being allowed to be able to produce content. And you got to do a little more than just have intriguing, melodrama you know, oh snap moments, you know,
right,
and you know, a bunch of action
Look
set
at-
pieces without actually any substantial character development or character growth.
Yeah, look at Stranger Things though. I mean, that actually, you know, we were commenting when we saw the new trailer. We're like, whoa, I feel like the season just ended and they're already coming back. It feels like that now means they're inspired. Well, they might. Well, now
no, they're not. But I mean, yes, that was. And then look, it's also testimony to them not wanting to mystery box their way to stardom, right? That they gave us the answer to the question at the end of season 3 about whether or not Hopper was alive. They gave it to us in the teaser.
Yeah.
Right? So obviously, and then this is using information that we don't have. This is speculating on information we don't have. Obviously, there's going to be more than season 4 than just is Hopper alive, because they already gave that they gave that Easter egg away.
Yeah.
So this is it because of previous seasons, because of the way they've done their shows, because of the way their stories fall together.
Mm-hmm.
You can speculate positively, right? Mm-hmm. You can extrapolate with some a dimension of positivity that the story is going to be it's going to be first and foremost in their
I know they're not going to do
in their presentation for this last season. I think it's supposed to be. I think season 4 is supposed to be their last season. So there's more to it. There's there's going to be a substantial amount more to it than just a whole bunch of snaps and will they, won't they's, and all this other weird stuff that people like to use as tropes to hook an audience, but then they don't really give them story. They don't give them anything. So I think, pertaining to what you were just saying earlier, the 8-episode format does work substantially, and Stranger Things proves it, but it works because they actually put emphasis in their characters.
They're inspired. They're actually inspired, and they're not.
As opposed to putting emphasis on the intrigue and the mysteries.
Mess.
Really bad sci-fi tropes. Overused sci-fi tropes. How many Terminator movies has there been? The Matrix trilogy. There's a BBC show called Humans. It's almost exactly has the exact same premise of Westworld. And then you have Ex Machina. I mean, we've been doing this for quite a long time, and Westworld is not really offering anything brand new to the genre.
No,
and it's a remake of a movie that came out in the 60s that covered the same. It asked the same questions. It covered the same material.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think. Are you excited about the idea of Daredevil coming home? Are you binging? Because up next, we're going to go a step further. We're going to talk binge-worthy franchises for you in quarantine. We're going to pick one must-binge series each in comics, movies, and TV when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it. This segment, I don't have a name for it, but kind of got me thinking last week when we were talking.
Bingeworthy.
Oh, we call it Bingeworthy.
That's the segment, Bingeworthy.
Okay. Done. Bingeworthy.
Marketing.
I just made a note.
Marketing.
I made a note. I was just thinking, obviously there's the stay-at-home guide, and there's so many of these things, right? Where it's like, here's what you should be watching, here's what you should be doing, and this and that. And usually they give you these obscure things. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what's the one movie, TV series, and comic book series that, like, you must binge? You must while you're home. Or it's like a must. It's like if you haven't seen it yet, like Sopranos, everyone's like, oh, you got to see Sopranos. I'm still not going to watch it, but I've seen a couple episodes. But that would be in my mind as like, this is what you got to see. So I went on Facebook, and if you go to Rogue Wave Podcast, Facebook.com/Rogue Wave Podcast, you can check out the post. And I asked for people to give me like the one movie franchise, TV series franchise, and comic book series franchise. Not just one-off movie. I don't want to see like the one movie you have to watch. Like everyone has to go watch Citizen Kane. I understand that, but what are the best franchises? The best binge-worthy franchises all around. It also got me thinking because you know what I DVR'd the other night?
No.
Die Hard with a Vengeance. Which, by the way, better than Die Hard. Better. It's not by a lot. Not by a lot.
Okay.
I'm not sitting there going, Die Hard with a Vengeance is by far the best Die Hard film. Merely saying, in my opinion, it is. It's tough. Die Hard is a thing. Die Hard's a thing of beauty too. Die Hard's a thing of beauty.
Why do you think my Die Hard with a Vengeance is better than Die Hard?
For the simple reason that when Die Hard comes on cable, yes, I can watch it. When Die Hard with a Vengeance is on, I need to go out and DVR it. It's something I can watch repeatedly and with the same level of satisfaction as when I first saw it. The first Die Hard, I enjoy it, not as much as I do Die Hard with a Vengeance. It stands the test of time greater. And again, we're not talking about this movie's great and this movie sucks. Just talking about if I had to pick one Die Hard, I'd actually go with Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Okay.
Now, would I binge Die Hard as a franchise? That's a different question because that's a tougher one, right? Because Die Hard 2, not so great. Live Free or Die Hard, underrated film. Justin Long, love that film. I love it. I think it's fun. The fifth Die Hard, pretty awful. The fifth Die Hard with what's his face? Couldn't even play a guy from Avatar. What's that?
Jai Courtney.
Yeah, that was pretty god awful. That was the Crystal Skull of the Die Hard franchise. What's a franchise? Give me a franchise that you can't live without. What's your binge worthy? I can watch
which category? Movie, television, or
we'll go movie. We'll go down the line. We'll go movie, TV, then comics.
I don't know about live without, but because my movie library is extensive. I don't think you would go wrong with Lord of the Rings for being stuck at home.
Yeah, that's actually a great film. You know what? It's funny how context matters, right? That is legitimately a stay-at-home because it's so long. It's like
especially if you watch the extended edition of each movie. That is a solid 8 hours that you are giving away.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a terrific sit at home, and you need the time to like just kind of take it all in. If you're going to watch it all at once. That's a great pick. I mentioned it before. While Die Hard is a tremendous franchise, there's enough misses in the 5 films, meaning 2 and 5, that I wouldn't exalt it. I would put Indiana Jones as my number one. Like, and over Star Wars.
Even though you just wrecked the last one.
But you know, it's funny. It doesn't fall off a cliff for me. Like Die Hard 5 falls off a cliff. It's like watching Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street.
But you just compared Die Hard 5 to Crystal Skull.
It's Crystal Skull.
That's a little contradictory.
One. No, it's its worst one. I'm saying it's not.
But you're saying that but it doesn't fall off a cliff.
Well, Crystal Skull doesn't fall off a cliff so much, but it is clearly the weakest one. Is what I was getting at. Like I don't think there's an argument. You can't. I don't think anyone.
There's an argument. I don't understand why. I don't understand this assertion that there is no argument about an opinion. But okay,
there is argument. I don't think you could find if you polled.
There's plenty of an argument.
If you polled 1 million people,
the preponderance argument doesn't.
No, but this is my assumption.
Your assumption. Just give your opinion. Stop.
There is no one that would sit there and say Die Hard 5 is not the worst Die Hard.
How do you know that?
I just do.
It's metrics that you do not have. You do not know that. Just stick with your own opinion.
Ability.
You do not.
Exactly
your innate opinion doesn't mean anything. You're the one who thought. All right, never mind. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. Okay, I agree.
Die Hard 5 is the worst. Indiana Jones as a franchise, though, I could watch all 4 of those, no problem. Like, no problem. Now, Star Wars is interesting, right? Because you have the prequels and you have the sequels now that kind of, and you have the one-offs as well too. So there is just a ton to get through. A lot of people said that MCU. That was a lot of people's choice. As a franchise, I guess. Didn't we have this argument too? Like, does it count as a franchise? Does the MCU as a whole, or is that a universe?
Call it a franchise? Can you call each movie a franchise, or is it a franchise as a whole?
Yeah,
is the argument.
Yeah, we've had this discussion before, and I don't remember what we kind of said. I think franchise to me is Captain America 1, 2, and 3. The MCU is a story universe, right? It's a world building. I wouldn't call the MCU a franchise, although it is, but it's different than what we would categorize. There's no.
Yeah, you're in this void all alone.
Would you? I mean, well, let me say this. I have
no opinion.
If you're watching Lord of the Rings, do you also have to watch The Hobbit?
You don't have to, but you can.
So, but it's, I guess, technically the Lord of the Rings franchise.
The Lord of the Rings is a different. It's in the same universe,
right?
It's in the Tolkien franchise, but it's not. But it is not necessarily a must-see edition of. Yeah. But in many ways, it was produced to be the proper prequels to the Lord of the Rings, so you can watch them. They are linked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to.
I guess it doesn't answer our question for the MCU. What's TV series? Which one you got on TV show?
I would say Stranger Things.
Ooh, I like that. That's a quality binge TV show.
I think so.
I go Buffy. I'm a big and it's funny, in prepping for this episode, I was looking at grabbing some images and stuff, and boy, like, do I miss that show? I actually really, really miss that show. X-Files was a close second, and I've done the binge on the X-Files, but the X-Files goes off of rails, or goes off of the rails by the end. That X-Files, it was a close second for me. I couldn't. It's tough. I feel like the way a show ends, kind of influences, how it's perceived, how the whole of it is perceived. When you sit there and go,
well, is it if the way the show ends is how you perceive it as worthy or not, then definitely,
Yes,
but, I mean,
literally just said that.
I don't know what the parameters are. Those are not my parameters as to whether or not if it ends substantially.
So let me ask you a question.
Because Stranger Things hasn't ended yet.
Well, that's true. No, I agree with that. But at the same time, the 3 seasons you've gotten have been of such high quality that you're going to assume that it's going to end in a way that is agreeable.
I'm not making any assumption. I'm just saying based off of the information that I already have, based off the episodes I've already watched, those are binge-worthy. Like, if you want to cycle through.
Let me ask you a question, though. If you had a TV show that had one season that was just unbelievable, the best season of television, but it was buffered by 2 seasons on either side of it that were near unwatchable, what would your feeling about the series be? And can you come up with an example like that?
No.
So I'm trying to think. There, Entourage, I'll give you as a great example. Season 1, 2, 3, and 4, 2 and 3 especially, some of the best, television that I some of my most enjoyable television. And then you kind of get into season 4 and season 5, and then after season 5, it's just awful. And then it brought down my whole, if I had to rate that whole series, it's not like you can just forget that seasons 5 through 9 plus the movie happened. You kind of just, it becomes, it influences.
Was the movie part of the good or part of the fall off the cliff?
Just part of the fall off the cliff. I mean, it was fine. At that point they were. They were so far gone that they were working off of the awfulness that was like seasons 5 through 8. So
you know what? You can actually, if you want to go all routes of category, then I would probably say maybe Enterprise kind of fits that. The first 2 seasons are garbage, but season 3 is really compelling and leads into season 4, which is really good, but it was too little, too late, which is why it ends at season 4. Also, maybe Babylon 5. Babylon 5 has the first 4 seasons are fantastic, and then the 5th season is terrible. But that's mainly because they threatened to cancel him at season 4. So he wrapped the whole story up, and then they said, you know what? Your ratings are so good. We're going to give you a 5th season. He's like, I'm out of story. So he literally had to cobble together, and now we're talking 23 episodes per season. Yeah. We're talking
Angel had the same thing happen to them too, where season 5, they were not sure if they were going to get picked up after season 4, so they told this big apocalyptic story.
They shouldn't have, because season 4 is garbage.
Season 4 is awesome. Angel's one of those shows where the first
season 4 of Angel is not good.
Season 1 of Angel, they're really trying to find their footing. Midway through season 2,
season 2 is great. Season 3 is great. Season 4 is terrible. Season 5 is a recovery. It's a decent recovery.
I thought season 4 was tremendous, but you could tell they were trying to wrap things up, and then they got extended. They had to pitch from what I remember, they had to pitch the WB or CW, I forget whatever it was at that point. They had to pitch them. It might have been even UPN for all I know. No, they had to pitch them and say, this is where we're going, for them to get picked up again. But they weren't sure if they were going to. So they kind of had it in place that they could end if they wanted to.
Yeah,
but that's another.
I beg to differ with you on that. So that's all.
Oh man, I remember. Yeah, season 4 was great.
It wasn't. It was not.
Season 3 was amazing when they went to the box format, the letterbox format too. Tremendous.
Yeah, I agree.
It actually made a huge difference.
And that's in the Buffyverse, which everybody knows.
Sure,
I have a lot of consternation with. So
you're not a fan.
I am not a fan. It's a complicated relationship.
Yeah,
I have with the Buffyverse. I am not a fan. I have, in fact, seen every episode.
Look at you go.
So, but I have very complicated reaction to that, or feelings about that, both those shows together.
Joss Whedon, whether you like it or not, and you don't, and I actually don't like it now, but I was okay with it then, is one of the most influential storytellers we've had in terms of how dialogue is now written in movies and in TV. Because
I wouldn't argue with that. I would say, and I would also
nature.
Yeah, and I would say it's to the detriment.
I agree. Actually, I think it is to the detriment. It's to the detriment where, and especially in modern comics, I think it's one of the worst things, because I keep reading. The one thing I hate is when the characters don't feel the danger is real, then I don't feel the danger is real either. And there's a difference between kind of like being like Spider-Man and telling a joke to kind of ease the pressure off this really deadly, dangerous moment, and then realize, every Spider-Man story, every good Spider-Man story, kind of has that to add some levity to it. But there's always that moment of Gwen Stacy falling off the bridge, or in Spider-Man 2 when he's battling Doc Ock, and he knows like, well, this could be the end. There's a sense of real danger. The characters feel it. I read so many stories where the characters are just so like, well, we've been through this and done this now like a million times, and it's like, well, then why do I care? If you're, you know what I mean? If there is no sense of,
I think the Whedonisms, and I'm not going to take anything away from the guy's writing, because I think he's a substantial writer. I think Whedonisms in general kind of herald in the era of stories not taking themselves seriously anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's like it's a bad thing. If the story takes itself too seriously, it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line to walk with that. I mean, there are things like, I would say Westworld takes itself way too seriously.
Oh gosh.
Right? But
very pretentious.
There is a fine line to walk where if none of this is being taken seriously, then I'm not going to be able to take any of it seriously.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of that. And there's also an imbalance of a lot of self-deprecating humor.
Mm-hmm.
Followed by all of a sudden a sudden burst of self-confidence, and
mm-hmm.
and to the point where there's almost overconfidence in a character.
Yep.
And you don't know where it came from, because the steps in the middle have been taken away, so that we could have the ooh-ah moment
mm-hmm.
at the end where the character like rises to the occasion. And I think that affects a lot of things. That has definitely affected J.J. Abrams, where he's done the same thing with Rey as he did with Kirk in his iteration of Star Trek, where there is no growth. The character is special because we say the character is special, and thus everybody else reacts to the character as special without having earned any kind of specialness, that we're supposed to apply to it. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. There are examples where it drastically does not work, which is, I would say, in my opinion, the Star Wars sequels. There are times when it does work, which I would say, in my opinion, like maybe Harry Potter, where you have a character who everyone says is special, and throughout the series, they treat him special, but he also demonstrates that he's worthy of the special title, in various occasions. And there's more to it than that. It's more complicated than that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. But I would say that he's he spawned, he as in Whedon, he kind of planted that seed of not taking the stakes seriously, and also not bothering with the steps of emotionality that would make that would actually apply some character growth to our main protagonist, and in many cases our main antagonist. Yeah. And so I'm not a very big fan of that stuff. I never was. No, that's not true. The first few seasons of Buffy, I was really went along with it, and then somewhere along the line, I just started to see that there's certain things were kind of falling apart for me personally. I was very much in the minority at the time because all my friends really loved it. It's worthy of love. It's good work. It really is good work. I have my misgivings with it because I think it teaches you bad lessons. But the work, that's the thing.
I agree. I'm laughing because I agree with you. Actually,
yeah, the work in itself can't really be blamed for what we learn from the work, though. Yeah. It's like if we learned all these bad lessons from this work, it's not the fault of the work, right? Really. So, I've changed my attitude about the work overall, like about Buffy, about Angel overall. I really, it's just like I had with Babylon 5 a long time ago, where I was not a big fan of it, and I've watched it again. I've sat through it. I've made my peace with it, and I think it's a substantial amount of work. It's really well done, and so is Buffy, and so is Angel. Mm-hmm. But I got my issues with it. That's all. As I elaborated just now.
No, I hear you. All right, comic series. This one was interesting too, just because
that's a hard one though. That's such a mixed bag, right?
It is,
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Okay. But I like it. And
what actually, is yours? What do you think?
What I did here, I toss it between two, and one I think is actually perfect if you're at home, which is the complete Bone collection. Bone is one of the best. Depending on your situation, so I have a family too. I have young kids, and they're a little too young for Bone just yet, but but almost like he's 4 years old. Like I could probably read it to him.
He's getting near it.
Yeah, I would say another year or two, and he'll enjoy it more. Not that he won't enjoy it; he'll enjoy it for what it is. I actually read him Mark Polton's Pizza Tree. Mark Polton's a friend of mine, friend of the show, and he's a former writer at Hawkman, former Hawkman writer. He did some stuff with Liefeld and Evangeline. And he's got Codename Kill Switch and a couple other books that he's been doing through Indiegogo. He came up with a quasi, it's not a children's book, but he did one called Pizza Tree, and I read that to my son. He actually really loved it. It's about this killer pizza tree. So again, maybe if he can digest,
imagine that.
if he can digest that, maybe he will enjoy Bone. Bone really is. I have the omnibus too, and it's tremendous. Actually, it's back in my studio, and it's definitely something you could just sit for 3 days and just pummel through
and just binge it.
Walk away so happy that you did it. In fact, it's in my pile. I've pulled aside a pile. The other series that's in my pile, but only till about issue 50, is Savage Dragon. Savage Dragon.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're picking two. All right.
I did. Okay. I know. I cheated. I said I established the rules and I broke it.
Yeah, you do, and you do that all the time. So okay.
Yes. Savage Dragon issues 1 through 50 is some of the zaniest, off the wall. He fights Hellboy. He fights God. At one point he ends up out of a monster's butt. It's one of those things that starts out and you kind of like, I'm not
it's
quite
supposed to be
sure.
A good thing, though, right?
It is. No, it's amazing. It is literally actually the most amazing off the wall superhero action you're going to find. It starts off a little rocky, like where you're not quite sure. I think he was trying to get his footing as well too. And then all of a sudden, by like issue 6 or 7, when his hand grows back, it's just all hands on deck, and you're just in for amazing...
I see what you did there.
Didn't you mean to do it? It's an amazing ride all the way through.
All right. That's pretty good. I would say for a comic book series, personally, I only have one. Akira by Katsushiro Otomo. Katsushiro Otomo. He did the manga for it. I'm talking about mainly the comic book, the manga. The movie is fantastic, but the movie is only like a tenth of the actual overall story.
Yeah.
The movie in and of itself is a completely different story. It is up there with Blade Runner as a genre changer and whatever game changer, but we don't have time to discuss that. Marvel Comics, I think under the Epic. Remember Epic from Marvel? Imprint. They pretty much
ElfQuest.
They pretty much they published the manga in like these smaller volumes. But they were substantial for comic books. They were still substantial, and they colorized them. And the original manga was in black and white.
Yeah.
So they colorized them and they translated them. I don't know if they translated them or they just published a translated version, but they translated them. And throughout the late '80s and the early 2000s, these comics would come out, and they were just, for me, they exploded my brain. They were just fantastic. Otomo his art is unsurpassed as far as I'm concerned. They have since been re-released in several different ways and in giant books of maybe 5. There's 5 different volumes of the original manga in black and white. You can get the Marvel versions. They have the colorized versions of them. They're all in English. It is amazing. Yeah. It's literally amazing. It's a fantastic story. It is a complete story.
Yeah.
It is. I can't say enough good things about it, but I would say Akira.
Yeah, I think that's
it narrowly beat out The Walking Dead as far as I was concerned.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, and now that Walking Dead has an ending, so see that was my differentiation, right? Savage Dragon still is ongoing. Bone actually ended, so that's why I kind of picked the two.
That's what I'm saying. So
that's a tough. It's easier when the story ends to say, you should be reading this. Walking Dead now with an ending. That becomes interesting. We had a couple people chime in with their choices. Pick one. Damien Noir, Fast and Furious franchise, Friends, and Jupiter's Legacy. I've never even heard of Jupiter's Legacy / Circle. I'm not sure if that's an anime, manga, or comic, but
neither do I. That's
but
I hate when I hear about new things and I don't know anything about it.
Now I want to check it out. I thought, what a juxtaposition to be like, I want to watch the Fast and Furious franchise and Friends.
Friends is kind of the Fast and Furious is kind of a high octane version of Friends.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess
Diesel's always talking about being a family, whatever.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Christine Coulter, Lord of the Rings, Veep. Never got into Veep. Heard great things about it.
I watched a couple of seasons of Veep, and it is good.
Supposedly it's great every season. Yeah, and then she wrote Saga. Saga is a fantastic Image comic series, but is not my favorite Brian K. Vaughan Image series at all.
It's not.
It never quite reaches for me the level of enjoyment that I've gotten out of other things. It's extremely well written. Mm-hmm. The characters are very interesting. I'm never upset that I picked it up. I look forward to reading it, but I'm never on the edge of my seat with that series for some reason. I think it's the way it's told. It's actually told from the daughter's point of view as an adult, looking back as when she was a baby. So I kind of know she makes it. I don't know. There's something about it that there's just a level of I don't quite enjoy it as much. Mark Lombardi, however, gave Paper Girls. That is one of my favorite Brian K. Vaughan Image books. It's only 30 issues, and that's it. Beginning, middle, and end. It deals with time traveling.
Though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not as if you're reading the entire like Stan Lee, Jack Kirby Fantastic Four run of 114. Paper Girls is a definitely recommendation. He also went with the MCU again, talking about that Marvel franchise thing, and Ozark, which I think I'm actually going to get into. I think I've just heard enough good things about that Jason Bateman that is going to be in my wheelhouse. All right, when we come back, let us know what you think. Give us some more topics to look at in terms of pick one. But we are going to go spin the racks. The comic book industry might be returning. Don't call it a comeback when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave Podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture. Go to roguewavepodcast.com. Click subscribe to download us on Apple Podcasts, and we're on all major podcasting apps. We are big fanboys of comics and graphic novels, and every week we like to bring you the inside info on the source material that will make its way onto the large and small screen. We call this segment Spinning the Racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
Comic book industry showing signs of reopening. This is from Hollywood Reporter. The distributor for Marvel, DC, and other companies predicts a mid to late May timeframe for restarting shipments to stores. The temporary shutdown of the North American comic book industry may be nearing its end. Diamond has informed retailers of its intent to restart shipments of new product by the end of May, suggesting a potential target date for the relaunch of the comic book market. Diamond actually had to cease distribution a couple weeks ago because of the COVID-19 crisis. And what it did also was kind of force other people to kind of take a different direction. But first, Diamond's last shipment of products to stores was March 25th. The shutdown following a number of retailers already being forced to close temporarily because of stay-at-home bans, shelter-in-place orders on state and local levels. Publishers then started to pursue or reschedule releases to pause or reschedule releases. In the wake of this pause, though, DC went out and announced they will begin shipment of new print material April 28th with a limited number of titles: The Dreaming, Daphne Byrne, Batman 100-page giant, and reprints of Batman number 89 and Nightwing number 70 being available to retailers who are open in the current climate. According to a statement from DC, the decision to release new product was made after surveying more than 2,000 stores across the U.S. and Canada and finding many comic book store owners are finding new and creative ways to get books to fans. I actually did a curbside pickup, and as soon as DC announced that they were doing distribution, not through Diamond, by the way, I think it's a new company, or it's a company, USA Comics, and I don't have it handy right now, but I got an email from my shop owner saying, yeah, we're going to start doing curbside pickup. So it's interesting, how people are kind of adapting to all this stuff. But
didn't we say earlier that a couple of weeks ago that they were going to find a way that this wasn't going to fall apart, that they were going to find a way to get... I mean, your main problem here was the distribution situation, right? Mm-hmm. So there's got to be 100 to 1,000 distribution organizations wanting to fill the void created by the Diamond monopoly. Yeah. And it just took, or it just takes, and hopefully this is what's happening, it just takes some insight in the industry in itself, and a little courage to know that they can walk away from a staple like Diamond, and all it took was an existential crisis for them to make that decision. But they still seemingly made that decision, and these inroads, I think, will be substantial for changing. Of course, the industry is going to change, but it will make the industry more sustainable in the future, for situations like this to happen.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because they are DC's technically an exclusive with Diamond. I'm actually trying to look up the name, and Newsarama has it, which they're fantastic. Chris Arendt, our friend. Lunar Distribution and UCS Comic Distributors. So I don't even know who these are, but they're actually They are sister companies, according to this Newsarama article, of mail order comics giant Discount Comic Book Service and Midtown Comics. So they are actually this is newly created just for this pandemic. Now,
so
whether
they
or
can
not
fill their own void, right?
Yeah.
Because they're retailers that are going to feel the sting of this much more substantially than any of the rest of us.
Yeah, Midtown's a gigantic online has a gigantic online presence. So yeah, I mean, if you want, it's no different than ordering books from a warehouse. I mean, you would order from Midtown Comics, and that's how you get it. Now they're not getting new books.
And then they'd come in the mail. You know, they do. That's ridiculous. That's fantastic. You know, that solves a lot of problems. It also causes a couple of problems because if you're going around, if retailers themselves don't jump on the mail order bandwagon, a lot of them are going to, kind of fall by the wayside. But it does give everybody another opportunity to keep their heads in the game.
Yep. So
yeah, it's a good thing. I like it.
Now the question again is what happens, when this subsides and Diamond starts publishing again. In a statement released following DC's announcement, Diamond said, "We value our partnership with DC and will continue to support them as a distributor. Our focus is squarely on getting our industry's entertainment product in the hands of fans as quickly and safely as possible." Nothing on Marvel except that they've paused certain titles. 10 to 15% of its line has been halted, but nothing new on that end. So, again, this disruption could facilitate a change that has been sorely needed. And could open doors for all of us going forward, which all of us in the creative community. All right, that's our show for tonight. Next week, we'll figure something out. I know Ghost in the Shell's coming out. Maybe we'll do an all anime episode. See, I don't even know. That's how crazy we don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. We
should not admit that we're unaware of how our future is going to be. We should keep pretending as though it's all going.
That it will be our greatest episode of all time. Don't miss it. Next week, Rogue Wave Podcast. We'll see you next week.